Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the window of his office, looking out at the stars. 14 years had passed since the aliens first came to Earth. 14 years since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. The meeting had not gone well. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Coalition. They had ships that could travel between stars in days. They had weapons that could destroy entire cities. They looked at humans like adults look at children with dangerous toys. Jake remembered that first meeting. The alien ambassador had smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Your species is very young," the ambassador had said. "You fight too much. You are too dangerous to join our community." The message was clear. Stay on Earth. Stay quiet. Do not try to reach the stars. But Jake Morrison was not the kind of man who took orders from aliens. He walked to his desk and pressed a button. The door to his office opened. Dr. Lisa Park walked in. She was the smartest person Jake had ever met. She could build machines that seemed like magic. "How is the project going?" Jake asked. Lisa smiled. It was a real smile, unlike the alien ambassador's fake one. "Better than we hoped. The first ship will be ready for testing next month." Jake nodded. For 14 years they had been working in secret. While Earth's leaders smiled and shook hands with the aliens, Jake and his team had been preparing for war. The aliens thought humans were dangerous. They were right. But they had no idea how dangerous. "Show me the reports," Jake said. Lisa placed a tablet on his desk. The screen showed numbers and charts that would make most people's heads hurt, but Jake understood what they meant. Earth was building the largest military force in human history, and the aliens had no idea. The secret had started small, a few generals, a handful of scientists, people who understood that the aliens' protection was really a prison. They began with a simple question: what if the aliens decided humans were too dangerous to live? The answer was terrifying. Earth's official military could not stop a single alien warship. The aliens had technology that was hundreds of years ahead of humanity. In a fair fight, humans would lose in minutes. So Jake decided not to fight fair. The project had many names in the files: Operation Iron Wall, Project Silent Shield, the Deep Defense Initiative. But Jake and his team called it something simpler: humanity's insurance policy. They built their ships in places where aliens never looked. On the dark side of the moon, in hollow asteroids, in deep space stations that looked like floating junk. Every ship was covered in special metal that made it invisible to alien sensors. Dr. Lisa Park had created that metal. She called it shadow steel. It bent light and radio waves around the ships like water flowing around a stone. To alien eyes, the ships simply did not exist. General Pete Johnson walked into the office. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. He had been building the secret army while Jake built the secret navy. "The Marines are ready," Pete said. "We have 50,000 soldiers trained to fight aliens. They know alien weapons, they know alien tactics, they know how to win." Jake nodded. "And the pilots?" "Commander Amy Wright has trained over 10,000 of them. They can fly our ships better than the aliens can fly theirs." Amy Wright was the best pilot in human history. She had flown the first shadow steel ship. She had tested it against alien sensors by flying right past their space stations. The aliens never saw her. "What about supplies?" Jake asked. Lisa answered. "We have enough food, fuel, and ammunition to fight for 20 years. Our factories are hidden all over the solar system. We can build new ships faster than the aliens can count them." Jake smiled. For 14 years, the aliens had watched Earth. They saw a world full of arguing governments and weak militaries. They saw humans fighting each other over land and resources. They thought Earth was helpless. They were wrong. Earth's governments had stopped fighting the day the aliens arrived. In secret, every nation on the planet was working together. They shared technology, they shared resources, they shared the same goal: survive. The aliens had made one big mistake. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought humans were like other species they had conquered before, species that gave up when faced with superior technology. But humans were different. Humans were stubborn. When someone told them they could not do something, they found a way to do it anyway. Jake looked at the tablet again. The numbers made him proud. 1,000 warships, each one more advanced than anything in the alien fleet, each one invisible to their sensors, each one crewed by humans who knew they were fighting for their species' survival. The aliens had given humanity an ultimatum years ago. Stay in your solar system or face the consequences. Earth's official leaders had agreed. They signed treaties, promising to be good neighbors. But Jake Morrison had different plans. When do we tell them? Lisa asked. Jake looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were getting ready for war. Intelligence reports said they were planning. Something big, something final. Soon, Jake said, very soon. The aliens wanted to keep humans trapped in their own solar system. They wanted to make sure humanity never became a threat. They were about to learn that they were 14 years too late. Earth had said nothing for all these years. But silence was not surrender. Silence was preparation. And now humanity was ready to speak. They would speak in the only language the aliens understood. They would speak in steel. Ambassador Kate Sullivan smiled as she shook hands with the Zephyrian trade minister. The aliens' three arms made handshakes awkward, but Kate had learned to manage it over the years. She was Earth's chief diplomat to the Galactic Coalition, and she was very good at her job. Too good, some might say. The mining rights on Kepler Station are very generous, the minister said in his clicking voice. Your people should be grateful for such opportunities. Kate nodded and smiled wider. Earth is always grateful for the Coalition's friendship. The words tasted like poison, but she said them anyway. For 2 years she'd been playing this game, smiling, bowing, pretending that Earth was happy to be treated like a child. But Kate Sullivan was not really a diplomat. She was a spy. The meeting ended, and Kate walked back to her quarters on the Coalition space station. Her rooms were nice, but she knew they were watched. Every word she spoke was recorded. Every message she sent was read by alien intelligence services. That was fine. Kate wanted them to read her messages. The real information went out through channels the aliens could never find. She sat at her desk and began typing a routine report about trade negotiations. Boring stuff about metal prices and shipping schedules. But hidden in the numbers was a different message. A message that would reach Earth through a network of human agents the aliens did not know existed. The hidden message was simple. The Coalition was getting ready for war. Captain Ryan Davis received Kate's message 3 days later. He was sitting in the command chair of the stealth ship EFS Ghost, floating in empty space between two star systems. His ship was invisible to alien sensors, just like the other 99 ships in his reconnaissance fleet. Ryan had been watching alien military bases for months. His job was to learn everything about Coalition forces, how many ships they had, where they kept them, how they fought, what their weaknesses were. The aliens thought they were masters of space warfare. They had been fighting other species for thousands of years. They had never lost a major battle, but they had never fought humans before. Ryan studied the data on his screen. Coalition fleets were moving. Ships that normally stayed in home systems were gathering at military bases near the border. Supply convoys were carrying extra weapons and ammunition. Training exercises were becoming more frequent and more realistic. Sir, said Lieutenant Danny Walsh, his communications officer, we're getting reports from all scout groups. The pattern is the same everywhere. They're preparing for something big. Ryan nodded. He had seen this before back when he was a young officer during Earth's last major war. This was what military preparation looked like when someone was planning an invasion. He opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Morrison needed to know what they had found. On Earth, Senator Greg Miller sat in a meeting room deep underground. Above him, the city of Geneva went about its normal business. People worked, children played. Life continued as if nothing was wrong. But Greg knew better. He was the leader of Earth's secret unified government. While the world's politicians argued and fought in public, the real decisions were made here, in rooms that did not officially exist. The reconnaissance reports are clear, Admiral Morrison said. Coalition forces are mobilizing. They're getting ready to attack. Defense Minister Carol Adams leaned forward. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less, Morrison replied. They're trying to be subtle, but we can see the pattern. Greg nodded. For years they had known this day would come. The aliens had been patient, but patience had limits. Eventually they would decide that humans were too dangerous to leave alone. What about our people in coalition space? Greg asked. Morrison smiled. Lieutenant Colonel Emma Stone's teams are in position. They've been there for months waiting. Emma Stone was the best special operations officer in human history. She could speak 12 alien languages. She could fight hand-to-hand with species, twice her size. Most importantly, she could blend in anywhere. Her teams had been infiltrating coalition space for over a year. They looked like traitors, tourists, refugees. In reality, they were elite soldiers gathering intelligence and preparing for war. Emma sat in a bar on the planet Centauri Prime, nursing a drink that tasted like metal polish. Around her, aliens of 6 different species talked and laughed. They had no idea that the small human woman in the corner booth could kill them all in under 30 seconds. She was listening to a conversation at the next table. 2 coalition officers were discussing fleet movements. They thought they were being careful, using code words and speaking quietly. They were not careful enough. The iron moon rises on the 3rd cycle, one of them said, and the children sleep. Until the storm passes, the other replied. Emma almost laughed. The coalition's codes were simple once you understood their cultural references. Iron moon meant the main battle fleet. 3rd cycle meant 3 weeks from now. Children's sleep meant civilian populations would be kept safe. In other words, the coalition was planning to attack a populated system in 3 weeks. And there was only one populated system they considered a threat. Earth. Emma finished her drink and left the bar. She had work to do. Back on Earth, Dr. Kevin Lee sat in front of a wall of computer screens. He was the head of Earth's Intelligence Analysis Division. His job was to take all the information from spies like Kate and scouts like Ryan and figure out what it meant. The picture was becoming clear, and it was not good. They're calling it Operation Peaceful Dawn, Kevin told the assembled leaders. Typical coalition propaganda. They're going to attack Earth and call it peacekeeping. Admiral Morrison frowned. How many ships? At least 500, maybe more. It's the largest military force the coalition has ever assembled. Senator Miller felt a chill run down his spine. 500 alien warships against Earth's official fleet of 30 aging cruisers. It would be a massacre. But Earth's official fleet was not the real fleet. Are our people ready? Miller asked. Morrison nodded. Admiral Tony Clark has been running combat simulations for months. Our pilots know alien tactics better than the aliens do. Our ships are faster, stronger, and invisible. And the message is prepared? Morrison smiled grimly. When the time comes, Earth will speak, and the galaxy will listen. The coalition thought they were being clever. They believed humans were primitive and weak. They expected Earth to surrender quickly when faced with overwhelming force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. For years, Earth had said nothing while the aliens watched and judged and planned. But silence was not weakness. Silence was the calm before the storm, and the storm was coming. Fleet Admiral Tony Clark stood on the bridge of the EFS Retribution, watching the empty space around Earth. His ship floated invisible among the asteroids, along with 999 other human warships. They had been waiting for this moment for years. Today, the coalition would come to destroy humanity. They did not know that humanity was ready. Admiral, said Captain Beth Morgan, his second in command. Long-range sensors are picking up something. It's big. Tony nodded. Show me. The main screen lit up with the image of space near Pluto. At first, there was nothing. Then, like ghosts becoming real, alien ships began to appear. 1, 10, 50, 100. Coalition Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony stood on his flagship, looking at the primitive solar system ahead of him. Earth looked so small and helpless from here. This would be the easiest conquest in coalition history. How many human ships do we detect? he asked his sensor officer. 37 vessels, Admiral. All old models. They're spread out across the system, probably trying to defend their colonies. Zektar laughed. 37 ships against his force of 600. The humans might as well throw rocks. Send the surrender demand, he ordered. Give them one chance to submit peacefully. On Earth, Dr. Kevin Lee watched the alien fleet deploy. They were following standard coalition tactics exactly as his intelligence reports had predicted. They expected Earth to surrender or die quickly. Admiral Morrison, Kevin said into his communicator. They've taken the bait. All enemy forces are committed. Jake Morrison smiled as he watched the enemy fleet spread out through the solar system. The aliens were confident. Maybe too confident. Send the signal to Admiral Clark, Jake said. It's time to show them what Earth really looks like. Tony Clark received the message and took a deep breath. For 14 years, humanity had worked toward this moment. Now it was time to see if their preparations were enough. All ships, Tony said into his communicator. This is Admiral Clark. Execute protocol revelation. Show them what we really are. Across the solar system, human ships began to appear. On the coalition flagship, the sensor officer stared at his screen in confusion. Admiral, I'm getting strange readings. The sensor grid is malfunctioning. What kind of malfunction? Zektar asked. Sir, it looks like there are more human ships. A lot more. The main screen flickered and suddenly the display was full of red dots. Each dot was a human warship. There were dozens of them, then hundreds. This must be an error, Zektar said. Run a full diagnostic. But the sensors were not broken. Around Earth, on the dark side of the moon, hidden in asteroid fields and floating in empty space, human ships were dropping their stealth systems. Ship after ship became visible, until the solar system looked like it was full of stars. Captain Beth. Morgan watched the alien fleet's formation begin to break apart as confusion spread through their ranks. Admiral, they're trying to reorganize. They don't know what to make of us. Tony Clark nodded. Open a channel to the coalition fleet, all frequencies. The communication officer worked for a moment, then nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Tony looked directly into the camera that would carry his image to every alien ship in the system. When he spoke, his voice was calm and cold. Coalition Fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Tony Clark of the Earth Defense Force. You came to our home. You brought weapons. You made your choice. On the Coalition flagship, Zektar stared at the human admiral on his screen. Behind the human, he could see the bridge of a warship that looked more advanced than anything in the Coalition fleet. This is impossible, Zektar whispered. Our intelligence said they had no military technology. Dr. Kevin Lee's voice came over the Coalition communication channels. Every alien ship could hear him speak. For 14 years you watched us. You thought you knew us. You thought we were weak and primitive. You were wrong. On screens throughout the alien fleet, images began to appear. Pictures of Coalition military, bases taken by human spy ships, technical diagrams of alien weapons copied by human agents, maps of Coalition space, surveyed by human scouts. We have been watching you too, Kevin continued. We know your ship designs, we know your tactics, we know your weaknesses, we know everything. Coalition Admiral Zektar tried to contact his home fleet, but human jamming systems blocked all long-range communications. He was cut off, surrounded by an enemy force that outnumbered him 2-1. This has to be a trick, he said to his officers. Humans cannot build ships like this. But his sensors told a different story. The human ships were not just numerous, they were advanced. Their energy signatures showed power systems beyond Coalition technology. Their movement patterns showed speed and agility that alien engineers thought was impossible. Captain Ryan Davis piloted his reconnaissance ship through the alien formation, his stealth system still active. He was recording everything for later analysis. The aliens were trying to reorganize, but they were too confused and frightened to think clearly. Admiral Clark, Ryan reported. Enemy fleet is in full disorder. They're trying to form defensive positions, but they don't know where to point their weapons. Tony Clark smiled. Begin the demonstration. Across the human fleet, weapon systems came online, but instead of firing to kill, they fired to disable. Precise energy beams struck alien ships, destroying their weapons and engines while leaving their life support intact. In 10 minutes, half the Coalition fleet was helpless. "Stop!" Zektar broadcast on all frequencies. We surrender, but Tony Clark was not finished. "You came here to destroy us," he said. "You thought we were helpless. You thought we would die quietly. You need to understand something." More human ships appeared. These were not part of the Solar System Defense Force. These were ships that had been hiding in deep space, waiting for this moment. "This fleet you see around you is not Earth's military," Tony continued. "This is just our home guard. Our real military is deployed elsewhere." Zektar felt his blood turn to ice. If this massive force was just Earth's local defense, how large was humanity's real fleet? Lieutenant Colonel Emma Stone's voice came over. "The communication system from a Coalition base, 3 star systems away." "Coalition Command, this is Colonel Stone of Earth Special Forces. Your weapons depots on Rigel Prime are now under human control. Do not attempt to send reinforcements." Similar reports came in from across Coalition space. Human forces were capturing military bases, supply depots, and communication centers. The aliens realized that while their main fleet was trapped at Earth, humans were taking control of their entire territory. Dr. Kevin Lee appeared on screen again. "For years you told us we were too dangerous to be trusted with space travel. You were right. We are dangerous, but only to those who threaten us." Admiral Clark addressed the alien fleet one final time. "You will return to Coalition space. You will tell your leaders what you have seen here. You will explain that Earth is not interested in conquest, but we are very interested in being left alone. And if anyone else decides that humans are too dangerous to live," Clark continued, "they can come here and discuss it with us personally." The Coalition fleet began to retreat, their disabled ships being towed by the few vessels that could still move. As they limped away from Earth, they carried a message that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity was no longer the primitive species hiding in a single star system. Earth had spent 14 years in silence, but that silence had been filled with preparation. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone threatened the human home, and the lesson would be taught in steel. Ambassador Kate Sullivan walked into the Coalition Supreme Council chamber like she owned the place. For years she had entered this room as a humble petitioner, begging for scraps of recognition. Today she walked in as the representative of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The council members sat in their high chairs, looking down at her with fear in their alien eyes. 3 days had passed since the disaster at Earth. News of the Coalition's defeat had spread across known space like wildfire. "Honored counselors," Kate said, her voice polite but firm. "I bring greetings from the people of Earth." The hegemony representative, a tall creature with purple skin, leaned forward. "Ambassador Sullivan, we demand an explanation. Your species has violated every treaty of non-aggression." Kate smiled the same smile she had used for years, but now it carried a different meaning. "Which treaty would that be? The one where you promised to leave Earth alone? Or the one where you said the Coalition believes in peaceful coexistence?" She activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air above the council chamber. Pictures of slave markets on Coalition worlds. Videos of entire species being wiped out for resisting Coalition rule. Records of planets stripped bare of resources and left to die. "For 14 years my intelligence network has been documenting Coalition crimes," Kate said. "Did you think we were not watching? Did you think we were not learning?" The Zephyrian counselor tried to speak. "These are internal Coalition matters. Earth has every right," Kate interrupted. "You made us care when you decided we were too dangerous to live." Admiral Jake Morrison appeared on a communication screen behind Kate. He was aboard the flagship of the human fleet that had just captured the Coalition's main military shipyard. "Counselors," Jake said, "I want you to understand the situation clearly. Human forces now control every major Coalition military installation. Your fleets are scattered. Your weapons factories are under our protection. Your communication networks are monitored by our intelligence services." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Aliens shouted in a dozen different languages. Some demanded war. Others called for negotiation. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Kate waited for the noise to die down. You want to know what Earth demands? It's very simple. We demand justice. President Maria Santos appeared on another screen. She was speaking from Earth, but her words reached every inhabited world in former coalition space. People of the galaxy, Maria said, for too long you have lived under the rule of tyrants who claimed to protect you while they enslaved you. Today that changes. On the planet Centauri Prime, crowds gathered around public screens to watch the Earth president speak. Many of the aliens in the crowd were species that the coalition had conquered generations ago. They had never known freedom. Earth offers you a choice, Maria continued. Live free under our protection, or continue to serve masters who care nothing for your lives. Choose carefully. Commander Nick Foster received new orders while his ship floated in orbit around the Coalition's capital world. His deep strike vessels had been hitting military targets across Coalition space for 3 days. The enemy had no way to stop him. All targets neutralized, Nick reported to Admiral Morrison. Coalition weapons of mass destruction are now under human control. Jake nodded from his command ship. Any resistance? None, sir. They're too scared to fight back. The Coalition had ruled through fear for centuries. They had weapons that could destroy entire worlds. But those weapons were useless if you could not protect them. Human stealth technology had made Coalition defenses worthless. Lieutenant Colonel Emma Stone stood in the council chamber of the Rigel Republic, a Coalition member state. The local government had requested an immediate meeting with Earth representatives. Colonel Stone, said Prime Minister Kels of Rigel, our people wish to formally surrender to Earth authority. We request protection from Coalition retaliation. Emma nodded. Earth accepts your surrender. Our protection comes with conditions. All slavery ends immediately. All political prisoners are released. All weapons of mass destruction are turned over to human forces. We agree to all conditions, the Prime Minister said quickly. We have seen what happens to those who oppose Earth. Similar scenes were playing out across former Coalition space. Some species fought briefly, only to discover that their weapons could not even find human ships to target. Others surrendered, immediately, hoping for mercy. On Earth, Senator Greg Miller coordinated the new galactic government from his underground command center. Reports flowed in from hundreds of worlds. The Coalition was collapsing faster than anyone had expected. The Hegemony Home Fleet is requesting a ceasefire, reported General Pete Johnson. They're offering complete surrender in exchange for survival. Greg studied the tactical displays. Human forces had achieved total victory in less than a week. The Coalition's military power was broken. Their political structure was in ruins. What about civilian populations? Greg asked. Dr. Lisa Park answered, from her position aboard a hospital ship. Our medical teams are already helping refugee populations. Many Coalition worlds were on the edge of starvation. The ruling classes had been taking everything for themselves. It was becoming clear that the Coalition had been weaker than anyone realized. Their military looked impressive, but it was built on rotten foundations. Conquered species had been waiting for someone to free them. Human intervention had given them that chance. Back in the council chamber, Kate Sullivan delivered Earth's final ultimatum. The Coalition is dissolved as of today. Any attempt to reform it will be considered an act of war against Earth. The Hegemony representative stood up, his purple skin darkening with rage. You cannot destroy thousands of years of civilization. The Coalition has brought order to the galaxy. Kate looked at him with cold eyes. Your order was built on slavery and murder. We're bringing a better kind of order. Admiral Clark appeared on screen again. Former Coalition leaders have a choice. Accept trial for war crimes or face the consequences of resistance. We've seen what those consequences look like. The chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered the reports from Earth. A Coalition invasion. Fleet of 600 ships had been defeated by humans without losing a single vessel. The demonstration of power had been absolute. Earth's terms are non-negotiable, Kate said. Justice for the guilty, freedom for the oppressed, peace for those who choose it. One by one, the council members began to nod their agreement. They had no choice. Human fleets controlled their worlds. Human technology made resistance impossible. Human mercy was the only thing standing between them and complete destruction. The Galactic Coalition died that day, killed by its own arrogance and cruelty. In its place, something new began to grow. Something built on the idea that the strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. As Kate Sullivan left the council chamber for the last time, she thought about the long journey that had brought them to this moment. Earth had remained silent for years, letting the aliens believe they were harmless. That silence had been the greatest weapon in human history. It had given Earth time to prepare, time to build, time to plan for this exact moment. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had intended. Fleet Admiral Tony Clark stood on the observation deck of the space station orbiting New Geneva, looking out at the stars. 6 years had passed since the Coalition's defeat. The galaxy was a very different place now. Below him, ships from dozens of different species docked at the station. Former enemies worked side by side, building something that had never existed before, a truly free galactic community. "Admiral," said Captain Beth Morgan, approaching with a data pad. "The monthly report from the Frontier Division." Tony took the pad and read the numbers. They still amazed him. In 6 years, human exploration fleets had discovered over 200 new inhabited worlds. Many of them had been hidden from the Coalition, their people living in fear of discovery. "How many requested protection this month?" Tony asked. 43 worlds, Beth replied, including one that specifically asked for human colonists to help rebuild their civilization. Tony nodded. It was always the same story. Worlds that had been devastated by Coalition rule, struggling to survive. Earth's response was always the same: help first, ask questions later. Dr. Lisa Park walked into the observation lounge, carrying a cup of coffee that smelled like home. She had been working for 18 hours straight, designing new medical facilities for refugee populations. "The new hospital on Kepler 7 is operational," she reported. "Infant mortality rates have dropped by 60% since we arrived." That was Lisa's way. She measured success in lives saved, not battles won. Her medical technology had saved millions of alien lives. Her agricultural systems had turned barren worlds into gardens. "Any resistance to our presence?" Tony asked. Lisa shook her head. "The local population built a statue of me in the capital city. I had to ask them to take it down. It was embarrassing." Tony smiled. That was happening a lot lately. Species that had never known kindness from outsiders were grateful beyond words for human help. Some of them treated Earth forces like gods. Senator Greg Miller appeared on the communication screen. He was calling from Earth, where he now served as Secretary General of the new Galactic Democratic Union. "Tony, we have a situation developing in the Andromeda sector," Greg said. "The Kree Empire is making aggressive moves toward our protectorate worlds." Tony frowned. The Kree were one of the few major powers that had not yet tested human resolve. They controlled space on the far side of former Coalition territory. Intelligence reports suggested they were planning to fill the power vacuum left by the Coalition's collapse. "What kind of aggressive moves?" Tony asked. "Border raids. Propaganda broadcast claiming that human protection is just another form of slavery. They're testing our response." Admiral Jake Morrison joined the call from his flagship. He was leading the 3rd Fleet on patrol near Kree space. His hair was grayer now, but his eyes were still sharp. "The Kree have been building up their forces for months," Jake reported. "They have about 300 ships. Good technology, well-trained. Crews they think they can take us." Tony considered the situation. The Kree Empire was larger than the old Coalition had been. Their military was more unified and better organized. A war with them would be the biggest test Earth had faced since the liberation. "What are our options?" Greg asked. Captain Ryan Davis joined the conversation from his scout ship deep in Kree territory. His reconnaissance missions had been monitoring enemy preparations for weeks. "They're planning a major offensive," Ryan reported. "Target appears to be the Rigel Republic. They want to capture our most prosperous protectorate and use it as leverage. Tony made his decision. Greg, send the usual warning. Tell the Kree that any attack on our protectorates will be considered an attack on Earth. And if they ignore the warning? Greg asked. Tony looked out at the peaceful scene around the space station. Alien children from a dozen species played together in the station's parks. Former enemies shared meals in the same restaurants. It was everything humanity had hoped to build. Then we remind them why the coalition fell, Tony said quietly. 3 days later, the Kree Empire launched their attack. 200 ships struck at 3 different protectorate worlds simultaneously. They expected quick victories against scattered, human defenders. They were disappointed. Commander Nick Foster's rapid response fleet was waiting for them. His ships had been positioned in secret for weeks, invisible to Kree sensors. When the enemy attacked, they found themselves surrounded by human forces that appeared out of nowhere. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the entire Kree attack force had been captured or destroyed. Human casualties, 0. President Maria Santos addressed the galaxy from Earth. Her words reached every inhabited world, transmitted by the communication network that humans had built to replace the coalition's propaganda system. The Kree Empire attacked innocent worlds under Earth's protection, Maria said. They believed that force was the only language we understood. They were wrong. On the main Kree homeworld, Emperor Vask watched the human president speak. Around him, his advisors argued about what to do next. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded total war. We still have the main fleet, said General Zorn. Over 1,000 ships, we can fight them. Vask was not so sure. The reports from the border battle were troubling. Human ships had appeared from nowhere, fought with perfect coordination, and vanished without a trace. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see? Emperor, said his intelligence chief. We're receiving reports from across our territory. Human special forces have been operating inside our space for months. They know everything about our defenses. Lieutenant Colonel Emma Stone proved that point by appearing on the Emperor's private communication channel. She was sitting in the command center of the Kree's most secure military base. Your Majesty, Emma said politely, I wanted to inform you that your biological weapon stockpile is now under human control. We wouldn't want any accidents. The Emperor stared at the screen in shock. The base where Emma was sitting was supposed to be impregnable. It was protected by the most advanced security systems in the Kree Empire. How did you get in there? Vask demanded. Emma smiled. Trade secret. The important thing is that Earth has no interest in conquering your empire. We just want you to stop attacking our friends. Admiral Clark's fleet appeared at the edge of Kree space. Unlike the Coalition's panicked response years before, the Kree fleet formed defensive positions and prepared for battle. They were professionals, and they would fight with honor. But Tony Clark had no intention of destroying them. Earth had learned that mercy was more powerful than destruction. Kree fleet, Tony broadcast, you have 2 choices. You can fight us and lose everything, or you can join us and help build something better. Emperor Vask appeared on screen from his flagship. Admiral Clark, the Kree Empire has never surrendered to anyone. We will not start now. Tony nodded respectfully. I understand. But before you make your final decision, I want to show you something. The display screens throughout the Kree fleet lit up with images from former Coalition worlds. Cities that had been rebuilt with human help. Children who had been saved by human medicine. Species that had been freed from slavery and given hope for the future. This is what Earth offers, Tony said. Not conquest, not submission, partnership. A chance to be part of something greater than any empire. Dr. Kevin Lee's intelligence analysis appeared on the screens. Emperor Vask, our records show that the Kree Empire spends 70% of its resources on military forces. Your people live in poverty while you build warships. Earth's protectorates spend 5% of their resources on defense, Kevin continued. The rest goes to hospitals, schools, and infrastructure. Their people are happier, healthier, and more prosperous than any citizens in your empire. The Kree officers looked at each other uncertainly. Many of them had families on homeworlds that struggled with hunger and disease. The human offer was tempting. Emperor Vask was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke carefully. "What exactly are you proposing?" Tony Clark smiled. "Dissolve your empire. Give your people the freedom to choose their own governments. In return, Earth will protect them from external threats and help them build better lives. And if we refuse?" Tony's expression became serious. "Then we'll do it anyway, but it will be harder for everyone involved." The Emperor understood. He had seen what happened to the Coalition when they chose to fight Earth. His empire was larger and stronger, but the result would be the same. "I need time to consult with my advisors," Vask said. "You have 1 hour," Tony replied. 60 minutes later, the Kree Empire formally surrendered. Unlike the Coalition's bitter defeat, this was a negotiated transition. Kree worlds would be given the chance to join the Galactic Democratic Union as free members. Captain Ryan Davis watched from his scout ship as Kree soldiers laid down their weapons and shook hands with human peacekeepers. It was a scene that would have been impossible a decade ago. The galaxy had learned to speak a new language. Not the language of fear and conquest that the Coalition had used, not the language of empire that the Kree had preferred. The language of cooperation, of mutual respect, of hope. As Admiral Clark returned to Earth, he thought about how far humanity had come. They had started as a single species trapped in one star system, dismissed as primitive and dangerous.